Hi, I'm Heidi Borchers. I love my sister's product, Cool2Cast. I can find so many things to do and so many different techniques, and I think you'll agree today's technique really kind of tops them all. I also love tree men and earthy things, so I made a journal with a tree and a tree man. Take a look. There's so much texture on this piece, I think you'll agree that it really looks fabulous. The tree in the background is just simply cereal box cardboard covered with the Cool2Cast. And then I've just created a tree man out of a mold using the Cool2Cast. Let me show you how. Start out by cutting the tree pattern out of cereal box or just food cardboard box, and we're going to put it onto some non-stick foil. I'm going to mix my Cool2Cast. It's in a plastic bag, and I'm going to add the water to it. And I'm going to zip it tight. And even though it's tight, I still like to be sure I hold on to the top. And just shake it, make sure you don't have any in the corners, and just shake for about a minute. We're going to pour the Cool2Cast onto the cardboard. So we want to clip off just the corner of the bag so that we can have it as a pour spout and just start to pour. Now I do have to warn you that the cardboard seems to soak up the water from the Cool2Cast pretty quickly, so it will dry pretty quickly. And I just have a little glob there, but that's okay, we'll make it work. Now I have some leftover in here, so I'm going to put them into the molds. This is a Santa Claus mold here, and also there's like an old man mold here. We're going to put some in there when we have a little bit left over like that. Tap them, and then set those aside to dry. And it takes probably about an hour or 2 hours before those can come out. And now we're going to take a spatula and just kind of go over this, and you can see how fast that dried. Normally it doesn't dry that fast on things, but the cardboard just soaks up the moisture so quickly. And there's that little glob that we got. And then I'm going to lift it up, and I'm going to transfer it over to a piece of wax paper. And this is where I can do my scoring. And you can do any cleanup on the edges. And we do still have to clean it up afterwards, so don't worry too much about it. But do get the scoring in, because I think it's really neat to have all that texture. And then just set it aside to dry. While we're waiting for our tree to dry, I'm going to prepare our tree man. Now I wanted to show you the difference between the Santa Claus and the little man, because I really thought the Santa Claus made a really cool tree man too. And the only reason I didn't use him on this one is he ended up a little bit too big. I've done the same thing, cut off. I'm going to pour a couple little puddles here. And we're going to put our man into it, pour a little bit more here for the Santa Claus. And I pour a little bit over his hat so you can't tell he was a Santa Claus. And we'll do a little bit more right here. And you can put up above, and there you have it, and you've set those aside to dry. My tree is dry, and I'm ready to take it off the wax paper. And we have a little bit of cleanup to do. Just take a craft knife and go over all the edges and just clean up those edges until you get it like you want. We are now ready to apply the alcohol ink onto our tree. And all it is just simply going over it, dripping the alcohol ink, and it's just layers and layers. I can't even tell you how many different layers I used. I just kept putting it on and putting it on and doing the different colors. I tried to stay with brown, And then I even put a little bit of green in it. And when I got to where I'd covered a lot of it, I took some alcohol ink that I have in a spray bottle, and I sprayed it on because that changes the color. Also, if you put a little bit of the alcohol ink on your work table here and then brush it on, that also works really cool. But see how it changes the color? You got some blues in there from the green, and you just keep building it up and building it up until you have the exact color that you want. My finished tree I put onto a piece of mat board that I completely collaged with some of my painted tissue. My tree man is here, and I did the same thing on coloring him. I used the green alcohol inks and just colored him the same way, a lighter color green, and then went to a little bit darker. I've glued all kinds of beads and even some little micro beads in between. And then we found this really cool moss, which is a flat moss, and I just cut little pieces of this moss, put it on the tree, and I really like the way it softened it. And then I glued the pieces over. Oh, we have a little loose bead. And I have some little wire spirals, and I think it's really cool. I really like the way that it came out. I'm really excited. We also have some little birds here. Won't forget those. These are actually little wedding birds that I found at the dollar store. I cut off their wings and I put the alcohol ink on them, and they were perfect. You just bind your journal with some ribbon. I just did some paper punching, put some paper in between and just bind it, and then I put some beads on the end there. And what a cool look. Don't you just love this? I'm trying to think, who am I going to give it to, or I'm going to keep it for myself? We'll see. I'm Heidi Borchers, and I think it's cool to craft, and it's really cool to use Cool2Cast.